picture yet? There we go. Perfect. And I
No,
will
just
be saying okay between the slides for you.
I just wanted to let everyone know that there is a bit of lag because I'm here in Ontario. So Karen will let us know when the next slide shows up, even though I put it ahead before you can see it.
Yeah.
I just want to say about this photo here. This is Bill standing there, just more for scale than anything, but this is Ha-Ha Bay, and it's spelled H-A-H-A, but it doesn't mean laughter. It refers to a French term meaning a hidden bay. So this bay was hidden from Pistolet Bay by Burnt Cape. Now I've got Bill's picture here. I don't know if you can get rid of that, or Bill's. Karen,
Okay. Okay.
can you get those two off there?
We've got the map. No, we only
No, I
see
mean,
you, Sue.
I'm seeing three people, myself, you, and Bill.
Oh, okay. I don't know, but I think we only see you.
Okay,
Let's see.
that's fine.
Okay.
I can see that what makes Burnt Cape ER so unique and a picture.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the photo there, you can see the map of Newfoundland and Labrador, and the Labrador Current comes down and goes across the top of Newfoundland and then down along the coast. And this dot here represents where the Burnt Cape is located. It's not too far from Lunso Meadows, and it's a peninsula between Raleigh and Cook's Harbor. It's attached to Raleigh, but the next community over is Cook's Harbor. So the current comes down, and there's a lot of strong winds and cold temperatures, and quite a short season, growing season compared to the rest of the island.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this shows an example of how quickly the temperatures can change. We were standing here having a barbecue after the season's work at Burnt Cape in '98. And this front just came in and the temperature dropped to 20 degrees. And on the right-hand side, you can see a picture of my daughter trying to close a door of the cabin we were staying at. So it's very, very windy and cold at certain times.
That's amazing picture, Sue.
See it yet?
No. No. We see your daughter. Okay. Now we see the frost, the green
Okay.
picture.
Okay, green, yeah. Okay, and the winter winds, they do frost pruning to the trees. So what you're seeing here are examples of the trees in most of the exposed areas on Burnt Cape. On the left-hand side, you've got balsam fir. On the right-hand side, you've got larch. And the buds that stick up above the snow cover, they get killed by the frost. So the plants grow horizontally rather than vertically, these trees. Now, when we have ravines, they go a little bit bigger. Okay.
Okay.
This picture is the front or the top of the cape, and you can see the three levels of limestone. There's three ages of Ordovician limestone, the top layer here, then a middle layer, and then this lower layer. Now the cape itself is about 3.8 kilometers long and a little bit over a kilometer wide. So it's basically 4 square kilometers. And it's a little bit wider in the center. And it's connected to the community of Raleigh by a sand isthmus. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this picture shows the lighter color is the bedrock, the exposed bedrock limestone. And then this area is all gravel that's developed in situ. So in the gravel area, our Cape is unique compared to the rest of the limestone barrens on the Northern Peninsula, which have more magnesium content. This particular limestone was between 98 and 99.8% pure calcium carbonate. So it was very desirable for quarrying. And soon you'll be seeing a picture of erosion on the Cape.
Okay,
So these are three pictures here to show how the rocks split through the frost action, and gradually they become the gravel that covers the Cape. But every bit of the gravel that's here, that's the gray gravel, is just formed by frost action. You'll find a lot of different colored rocks on the surface, but those are erratics that were brought over by glaciation. Okay, see plants soon.
okay,
So the one on the left is the reddish sandwort, Sabulina rubella. And it's a very tiny little thing that's about the size of maybe a silver dollar. And then the butterwort, which is common to most limestone barrens. They have that up here in Ontario too. And you see some more pictures of different plants next.
mhm. Okay,
Okay, this is the Burnt Cape cinquefoil. Earl found this in 1925 when he visited Burnt Cape for the first time. And he named it Potentilla usticapensis, which in Latin means burnt cape. And then years later, he realized that it was actually the same plant as the Arctic Potentilla pulchella. So now it goes by that name, Potentilla pulchella, but we've kept the common name burnt cape cinquefoil for the Newfoundland plants. And it likes to grow in the gravel and also on these little depressions in the bedrock too. Okay. Yeah, you'll see another different plant next.
okay,
Okay, this is the woolly alpine chickweed, and it's the leaves are a lot hairier than the regular Cerastium alpinum, and it's one of the more common plants up at the Cape. And you can see it's right in the bare gravel. It also is one of the colonizers in the gravel. Okay, another slide. This will be in more of the ravine areas.
okay,
Okay, this is the river beauty. Now we've seen lots of river beauty up in Labrador, especially likes the sandbars in the rivers. But on Burnt Cape, it grows in not just the limestone, but also in some of the shallower ravines. So it's quite beautiful. It's the flowers are a lot bigger than your typical fireweed. Another plant that's
okay,
okay, this one is rare in Newfoundland, and this is the Folios Oxytropus deflexa foliolosa. And it's labeled as an S2, which is, in ranking plants, there's a 5-scale ranking. So S1s are the rarest that have less than 5 populations. S2s have between 5 and 6 and 20, and then it goes up to S5, which is like a dandelion. So this is your Folios oxytropin. It has purple flowers and it's very prostrate, and it's quite beautiful. It only grows in some of the turfy areas at the top of the Cape. And you'll see a group of calciphiles.
okay,
Here are the 3 different species of saxifrage, and they all have one thing in common. They all have little white dots at the tips of their leaves, And this is because they have hydrothodes in there that secrete excess calcium. This is characteristic of the saxifrages. So the next one is be an enlargement of this plant here, and that'll be the clustered saxifrage. One in the middle is the purple mountain saxifrage, which in the early spring has gorgeous purple flowers, small, low. And then the one on the left here is yellow mountain saxifrage, Saxifrageozoides, and that's quite a colonizer. We find that coming in very early in the areas that were disturbed.
Okay,
And this is the encrusted saxifrage, Saxifraga paniculata. It's our Lansdowni. And this is adapted to rock outcrops. That find it in crevices in the rocks and on the bare rock where there's a little bit of organic matter growing. And you can see the limestone edges on the leaves. It's quite a beautiful plant. You can't tell from these photos, but the white petals have very tiny dark red dots all over them.
is there not a bee or fly?
Yes, there was, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
up there.
Oops, I went the wrong way.
Oh, that's okay.
I can go back.
Next one.
I don't know if I
That's
can go
all right.
back.
No,
Yeah,
don't.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now in some of the ravines where you have more vegetation, can you see the very flowers there?
Yes.
Okay.
We're seeing velvet bells,
Yeah.
orchids.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is
Okay.
what we find in the ravines. The velvet bells, Bartsia alpina, is one of another rare plant. It's an S2. And then in the center is the Newfoundland orchid, the Pseudorchis straminia. For a long time was called Pseudorchis albida, but now it's been upgraded to its own species. And the flower is more of a straw colored, which is what straminia means, rather than the typical white over in the European version of Pseudorchis. And then the purple, and I call it purple spotted orchid, it's the round leaf orchid, that is on the right-hand side, and that's found in some of the ravines in the old pits.
Okay.
Okay. And then the large yellow lady slipper, Cypripedium parviflorum, var pubescens, it's the same species, just a different variety that we have in Ontario, and it's usually a lot shorter. But the sepals on the side are more flattened and they're more yellowish green than they are brown and coiled in the Northern Ontario versions. So you can get very small ones, and then in the ravines like this one, they're a little bit bigger. In the next picture, we'll show a ravine.
Okay.
Now there's a number of ravines on the Cape, and they're all densely vegetated, and some of them have very deep crevices that are hidden by the vegetation. So anyone who is hiking up there, we always remind them not to cross the ravine to get to another area of limestone, because you could fall into one of those crevices, and unless you've got other people with you, there's no way anyone would know. And those crevices, the water will drain down there and it'll escape through, cracks in the bedrock at the base. Now that tree in the center there, that's the only tall tree we've seen on Burnt Cape. So most of the trees are quite stunted due to the weather and the wind. And you should see a map soon.
Okay.
Okay, so you see on the map there of Burnt Cape, and those yellow dots represent the populations of Crepus or Askelia pygmaea. When we were first doing our work, it was called Crepus nana. And this top one here is the first one that we found. And there were other locations here that were dug up by the bulldozers. And we'll see pictures of that in a minute. But this is the community of Raleigh down here, and here's the isthmus at the base that connects Burnt Cape to the community of Raleigh. So in August of '94, Michael and Ann and I visited Burnt Cape after we heard from, I think it's Paul Martin Brown, who told us that they'd found Calypso and they found the Crepus up there. And no one had reported those plants from Newfoundland since Fernald had been there in 1925. So it was quite a big thing. And Paul had given us a map of where to find them, but it was based on the position of a picnic table. And when we got there, they had moved the picnic table to the beach. So the map didn't really help us. So we just tried to find different things ourselves. And the first thing we saw, taking the road to the end of the Cape, were this bulldozer and a front end loader and a dump
Okay.
truck. They were scraping up the scree slope from the cliff and dumping the gravel into this dump truck. And then these are frost polygons, and this bulldozer here is just pushing all the gravel together so the front end loader can dump it into the dump truck.
Oh,
Now, we didn't know if they had permission to do this or what, so we didn't really approach them. And we figured we'd find out what was going on later. So we went to the other side of the Cape and started looking around. Now you should see some frost polygons soon.
okay.
Okay, so this shows you a closer view of the frost polygons, or also called stone circles. At the Cape, they're more circular than they are just polygons. And they can be several meters across. And they're formed by frost action, where the frost pushes all the larger stones out from the center. So we end up with these large rings. And there's so much frost action in the center that you don't get any vegetation covering the middle of the rings, just the edges there where it's more protected. So you can see that the vegetation is congregated around the inner rims of the frost polygons. And you'll see 3 plants in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so we kept looking on the eastern side of the Cape, and pretty soon we started seeing these flowers, and it was just pretty much like Fernald found it. We were walking along and said, "Oh, look, there's that. Oh, there's that one, and there's another one." So it was very exciting for us because we had never, knew that these plants hadn't been seen other than for Paul's report since 1925. So the Askelia pygmaea, which as it's called now, we used to call it Crepus nana, that's on the left, and then in the center is Brea fernaldii. And then there's a Calypso orchid on the right. And all of these are S1s, which means they're very rare, less than 5 populations known in the province, that is. Okay. Now you'll see another version of the picture of the Cape in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so after we found the rare species and some of them and knew that there was damage going on, we decided we had to do something. We just couldn't let it happen. So we looked into it and found out that there was a quarry permit that allowed them to quarry. Term raise in mining terms means to destroy. So they're going to mine the Cape from 75 meters down to 15 meters, taking all of the limestone. So that would have removed all the protection for the community of Raleigh, from the winter winds, and it would have destroyed all the vegetation. So we started writing letters, and we wrote to the premier and cabinet ministers, and we gave a presentation in December of '94. And then the Wilderness and Ecological Reserves Committee supported our efforts, and they told us, or I guess it was the mining people told us, that the permits were going to expire at the end of August in '95. So we figured, okay, well, that's not a problem. We didn't see a whole lot of damage, but we'll see what else happened
Okay.
after. And here, this picture shows the community of Raleigh, and getting the Cape protected was definitely important. The support of the community was essential. If we didn't have their support, this would never have happened. So the mayor and the town council members also wrote letters, And pretty soon the government declared Burnt Cape a provisional reserve. They were supporting it, the community members. And few things happened between then and when it became a reserve. You'll see another picture soon.
Okay.
So we went back, we were planning to go back in later in 95 after the quarry permits were expired, but someone from the town, and I won't say who right now, called me and told me that there was a lot of damage going on at the Cape, and they were taking truckloads of gravel off the Cape around the clock. So we went over there ahead of time, and we had talked to Dr. Rex Gibbons, who was the minister at the time, and he had said that if we run into any problems, just give him a call. So very supportive. So we went there and we found some new pits, and you can see this new pit here. This is a new stake. You can't tell me that that's a weathered stake. That's a brand new stake put in, and that wasn't there the year before. Next picture. So you picture what the vegetation at this area looked like before the quarrying.
Okay.
Okay, so this is mainly Oxytropis deflexa here, and then you've got your butterworts and some Arctus alpinus growing here, and then dwarf willows. So this is what that area looked like previously, and this is what it looked like when we got there in 96 or 95, I think it was. So they had bulldozed a lot of the gravel that was on the slope above the cliff and stockpiled some of it to carry away. The next picture will show you a different view of
Okay.
that same pit.
Yeah.
And this shows you the depth of the gravel that they took away. And remember, all of this gravel formed just from in situ weathering on the site.
Okay.
So this is how deep the gravel was.
Hmm.
The next picture shows you a view from the top looking down.
Okay.
Okay, so there you can see that same vehicle in the back. That's Michael and Ann's car, and this is where they had taken all the gravel out of. Okay, the next two pictures will show you the site that Brea Cornelii grew on.
Okay.
Okay. So this area was heavily bulldozed, and they even made a little pool there from taking so much gravel out of that site. And you can see, can you see my mouse when I do this?
Yes, we can see your mouse.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank
see this all this brown stuff here. When they were told that they had to rehabilitate the site, when we went back in 96, we saw this bulldozer pushing heat that they had dug up from the, destroying the vegetation. They were pouring that over, spreading that over the Brea site. And I don't know, I don't have a picture of this because I was involved in it, but I walked up to the bulldozer and I said, did you know you're covering up rare plants? And he said, are you the lady that knows about the plants? I said, I guess that would be me. He said, well, I was told to listen to you. I said, fine, you can go home. And he did. So he left the bulldozer there and didn't cover any more of the ground. So I'm sure that it was Dr. Gibbons that had told him that because he was very supportive. So they didn't cover up the whole site, just that one area was covered, and that's where a lot of the Brea had been growing. Next picture will show the Creepus site, or the Skeelia site.
Okay. Okay.
So on the left-hand side here, you can see stockpiles of gravel that they had dug up or bulldozed up. And here you can see another pit here. And this is all on the eastern side of the Cape. So there's three different pits. And this particular pit, you can see the the bulldozer is sitting right in it, so that's how deep the pit was. Then there's piles of gravel up there. So when we saw that, we contacted Dr. Gibbons and told him what was happening.
Okay,
As we contacted Dr. Gibbons, he sent the mining inspector out to check it because we knew that the stakes had been put there recently. So this is the mining inspector, and you can see this yellow circle. This is surrounding the dwarf hawksbill, the Aspelia pygmaea, what we used to call Crepus nana. So that's how tiny the plants are. So very difficult to see without knowing what you're looking at. And this picture, the mine inspector is taking the coordinates to show where the location of the damage is. And up here is the quarrier talking to some of the community members.
okay,
Okay, and while this was going on, there was an anonymous donation of $100,000 made through Nature Conservancy Canada and given to the Newfoundland government to support rehabilitation efforts at the Cape. So with that support, the actual declaration of a provisional reserve was made in '97. And then it wasn't until 2000 that permanent ER status was granted. Now that 100,000 went to pay for hiring community members. I'll go on to the next slide and talk more about that. So besides the people that were doing the rehab, they hired me to do vegetation surveys of the Cape and to oversee the rehabilitation. Now, one of the problems with rehabilitation at the Cape is that you can't put gravel back that's been taken off the island, and you can't put different kinds of gravel in because this is unique gravel. It's almost pure calcium carbonate. So we had to just have the people that were working with us level off the areas that had been stockpiled so that natural revegetation could occur. And the community members were all from the town. They were all previously unemployed. And the community had randomly selected their names to be workers on the Cape. So there was no favoritism. It was a very fair equity thing. And there were 2 girls working in the field, 1 girl working in the books, and then the other guys were ranged in age from young to old. I think our oldest guy was in his 60s. And here we go. There's 2 women, Patty and Jean, and then there's Steve Taylor. And they're leveling some of the areas that were destroyed on the east coast of the Cape. So I'll show you a picture later of the rest of the crew.
okay,
So this picture shows one of the pits on the left side of the Cape, just above the cliff. They leveled off all those vegetation mats that the bulldozer had had pushed over on the side, leveled them out on the gravel, and are smoothing out all the slopes. And they did such a good job that this horned lark decided to build a nest in the area that they had put the vegetation back in. And during their work, they noticed the horned lark babies and just worked around them. And the mother stayed there and raised the babies until they flew away. And I know some of the members told me that they saw the birds coming back even after they had fledged. So once the work at the Cape the rehab work was done, then the community was involved in getting park interpreters hired through the Parks Department to give information to tourists who came there. So these are 2 of the park interpreters. This is a picture from Henry Mann. He sent it to me for them. It's Elizabeth Smith and Wavy Greenham. And then I don't have a picture of Jackie, but she's one of the interpreters there. And unfortunately, the government decided that they were going to take all the interpreters off the Cape and other areas because of money. So there are no interpreters right there now, but they did an excellent job, all the girls, just bringing all the tourists around, showing them all the plants and all the sites at the Cape.
Okay,
Okay, now this picture is where we used to, remember, I showed you that picture where the bulldozer was bulldozing up the frost polygons. They made this area into a parking area because you couldn't remake a polygon. It takes thousands of years. So this is the parking area now, and there's still frost polygons around it. So that's the end of the road for the road across. And then from that road, you can take a trail, which you'll see in the next few pictures.
okay,
And so here, this is the middle level of the Ordovician limestone, and this is just below the cliff. And this area going towards the end of the cape is covered in impeachment barren. So impeachment is the plant in the lower left here, and that's a black crowberry. And if you haven't had crowberry jam, if you're in Newfoundland, go to Dark Tickle and get some. It's delicious. Anyway, so here's a couple people walking on the trail, and this trail goes right to the tip of the cape and then down to the lower level. And this is our friend Noah Smith walking on the cape here, this trail. So once you get down the lower level, you can see these are what they call the cannon holes, which I guess were named because people thought they looked like someone shot the wall with a cannon.
okay,
But I'm sorry, I forgot to wait for you, Karen.
that's it.
This is where the water comes out when it's draining off the crevices and the cape. So you can see the water stains from it. And this is big enough so that a person can stand. I have another photo and I'll throw the mayor standing in here. He only goes up about this high in that opening. And then this, I call it the wash basin because it looks like a perfect circle. So this is all on the, rocks rolling around in the waves. Besides those
Okay.
features on the bottom, there's also a couple caves in Burn Cape. This one is called the Little Oven, and this is the opening here. Unfortunately, there's no way to walk into it. There's just no connection into the cave. So, you'll see another one in a minute.
Okay,
This is the big oven, and pretty sure it was Noah who brought us into the big oven so we could see out of it here. There is a little bit of a beach that you can dock a boat into or pull a boat up on. But again, you can't walk into it because of the cliffs on each side. So I'm sure one of these people are Joe Brazel. So,
okay,
so besides the rare plants at the Cape, and there are 310 species of plants at the Cape, about 20 of them are rare. So we've got humpback whales that are there, mainly during the time when capelin are spawning. This is actually the boat that we took to go into the big oven.
okay,
So here you can see a couple shots of humpbacks, and these are taken from the top of the cape, looking over the water on the west side of the cape. And there's always seabirds sitting in the water around that area, especially during capelin season.
okay,
And then there's always icebergs in the spring too, if you're there early enough. One year, I think it was 2 years ago, we went there and there were tons of icebergs all around. So this is just an example of one of the icebergs that is in Ha Ha Bay. Usually they're more further out, more in the channel.
okay,
Okay, so this is the main road that goes towards that parking area I showed you. And to the right would be the road down into Raleigh. So it's it's a dirt road, and to get up to this part, it's a pretty steep climb. So you really need something like an SUV or you know, a sturdy truck to get up the road. You can't go up there with just a sedan. You'll bottom out for sure. Next picture we'll see is frost polygon.
Okay,
Okay, so these are the frost polygons in the parking area. And you can see how large they are compared to the road there. And I was talking to Michael Brzezinski in my email, and because he's in Crete now, but he said it's probably between 6,000 and 8,000 years ago that these started to form. After the post-glaciation, there was a drop in sea level that exposed the Cape, and that's when in situ weathering would have started to occur. So these, again, these polygons are several thousand years old. So you can't just expect them to come back in 20 or 30 years. Next picture will show you the other side of the Cape.
okay,
Okay, so this is the western side of the Cape facing Cook's Harbor. And that vehicle that's in the middle of the road there, they're really not allowed there. This is one of the decommissioned roads that we had. There were several roads made by bulldozers looking for sites to dig up, gravel sites. So all of the roads that, other than the main road over to that parking area, we had decommissioned them by putting rocks, large boulders in front of the road. But unfortunately, vehicles are going around the rocks because it's all barren, and then they still go out there.
okay,
That road leads to some other valleys, and this is on the southwest shore of Burnt Cape. And the fossil, or the bedrock on this side is particularly rich in fossils. So there are lots of trilobites in that side. So the next picture will show you a couple of trilobite fossils.
oh, yes, okay,
Now, the one on the right, that's the lower portion of the pygidium of a trilobite. And that particular fossil was found by the nephew of one of the people that was working with us. And this is before the Cape was declared a reserve, and probably before we had started working out there. So this was his own fossil. So he loaned it to us just to take the photograph, but he still owns it, I'm pretty sure. And then the one on the left is a fossil in the bedrock that's probably still out there. But you're not allowed to take any fossils or plants off of the Cape because it is a reserve. I should also add
okay,
that Doug Boyd, excellent work on studying the fossils out at Burnt Cape. He has a paper, or actually a little book about it too. Now, the vegetation of the rest of the Cape on the east side is mainly little patches of Dryas integrifolia, dwarf willows, and shrubby cinquefoil that are scattered across the limestone gravel. And this type of vegetation, the spotty patches, are typical of the limestone barrens along the northern peninsula. Here you can see Labrador in the background, and there's a few icebergs there still. The next picture will show you a closer view of those vegetation mats.
okay,
Okay. So this is typical of one of the mats, and you can see that there's erosion on one side. So the wind would be coming from this direction. And so this side of the vegetation mats would keep getting eroded, and this side you get the plants growing. So if you could do a time-lapse photograph over generations and hundreds of years, you'd see the mats of vegetation keeping up slope like waves. It's pretty interesting when you think of it in those terms. Next few pictures will show you the different plants that make up those vegetation mats.
okay,
So this is the Dryas integrifolia, entire leaf mountain avens. And it's quite a beautiful little thing. It's an early bloomer. You can see the ant getting nectar out of it. And then later in the season, it gets this nice feathery group of canes at the top. Next picture will show the shrubby cinquefoil.
Okay,
This is Dasyphora fructicosa. Beautiful yellow flowers. Always grows pretty low here. And another main component of these vegetation mats are the different dwarf willows. Do you see that one yet?
okay. Just now. Yeah.
This is Salix ubersi, the bearberry willow. And you can see from the trunk how old it is. It's quite an old tree, but it's horizontal because of the exposure. The next picture will show you another different species of dwarf willow. This one is the limestone willow, Salix calcicola. You see that yet?
No,
No. Oh.
yeah, okay,
Okay. So the plant on the left, that's the male plant, the male catkins, and they start out like little brown balls, and then as they expand, they become whiter. They're very interesting when they first come out. This is before these; they're just brown balls. And then on the picture on the left, you can see what look like spiny catkins. Those are actually the fruits of the same plant. That's the Salix calcicola, the limestone willow.
okay,
And this is the next main willow, Salix reticulata. And it's quite a small willow, a small-leaved willow, and the undersurface is glaucous. But you can see that the veins, they appear darker. So it's quite distinctive. It's one of my favorites. And the fruiting catkins are red. These are the males, the flowers, but they'll turn red when they're in fruit.
okay,
Okay, this is the Salix glauca, the beautiful willow. It's Salix glauca or cordifolia. And you can see the picture on the left. Again, that's a very old but still low plant. And the right, you have the male flowers there. But when they're in fruit, they have lovely feathery or velvety looking catkins, fruiting catkins. That's where the name comes from. It's a beautiful willow.
okay,
Okay. This next one is a hairy willow, Salix vestita. It doesn't look too hairy from where you get it, but if you turn a little over, you see the lower surface is covered in long silvery hairs. So that's Salix vestita. And these leaves are about 3 times as large as those of the net vein willow, the Salix reticulata. You see some of the Saxifraga oppositifolia, the purple mountain saxifrage over here. One of the other plants that grows in the besides the willows, you get other little clump formers in the gravel. Can you see this one yet?
okay, just now.
Okay, this is your moss campion, Silene follis. And per publication, we even get white versions of it. There's a little Cerastium alpinum here too.
Okay,
And then we've got the Newfoundland harebell. They've put the name back to the original Campanula rotundifolia. And because of the exposure, we often get just one flower. And but when you have a more protected area, you'll get a plant with several branches and a few nodding flowers. But in the limestone barrens on Burnt Cape, you often see just like one flower like this, or maybe 2.
okay,
So back in 2023, Bill worked with me to do some rehab work or studies at Burnt Cape. And during the summer of '98, when we were first working at the Cape, I did this vegetation map. So that was our base. And you can see in the middle, this is where our original Crepus nana, Scilia pygmaea site was. So then the one year I was working with a SSAC, that's a Species Specialist Advisory Committee, and there's people from different fields, and I'm the botanist on that committee for the province. So I did a status report for Scilia pygmaea, and so Bill and I did populations counts here. Now, when we first did the work in '98 of the vegetation, wasn't enough time to count all the plants for every population. So we just made lists of the different species and their location. So to do a status report, you need to know if the population is increasing or decreasing. So we went there in 2022 and 2023 and started counting the Scilia site plants. So in 2020, we went back again and we found 3 new sites in this area, and these dotted circles show the areas that we surveyed in those years. So the next picture will show you the close-up of the dwarf hawksbeard. So you can see that's a commemorative quarter. It's not a larger thing than a quarter. It just happened to be a commemorative one, so that's why the maple leaf is there. But that's your typical size of a flowering plant of Scilia pygmaea. And besides the Scilia, you always find a few things in coordination with that, sort of like companion plants. And the 2 most common ones are the Arctic bladderpod, which is shown here in this picture, Viceria arctica. It used to be called Lascarella pershii. It's beautiful mustard, and the leaves blend in right with the limestone. And so that's one of the companions. And then the other is the alpine milkweed. Wherever I find alpine milkweed, I'll find the Crepus or the Scilia. So there's a little pea type plant, beautiful purple flowers. It always creeps along the ground.
Okay,
Oh, I went ahead. I'm sorry.
that's okay. We're there now.
This is the Astragalus alpinus, the alpine milkweed. You can see the purple flowers. And again, it's always found with the Scilia pygmaea. Very seldom right next to it, but in the same general area. So, and one of the areas that Bill and I found last year had a lot of Cerasticum alpinum in it too. So this is an overview of that first original Scilia pygmaea site. And so the first step in doing the population counts is to just assess the size and the viability of population. So we had to count all the plants. And you can see this is Bill taking a picture of one of the larger flowering plants there. I think it's just in bud. So see Bill taking a picture of this Scilia pygmaea there. And in order to count all the plants, we couldn't just walk around and look and point them out, because you're in danger of counting individual plants more than once. They all look alike. So we decided to do using the next picture. You'll see how we did that. We made numbered cards out of index cards. I cut each card in half and put numbers on them. And then we took erratics, nearby rocks that were around the area, and used them to weigh down the numbers, because the wind would blow them away if we didn't do that. And then we took photographs of each of the plants with the cards so that we knew that they weren't being counted twice. And we left all the cards in the field until every plant was counted. So the next picture will show you an area view of some of the distribution of some of the plants.
Okay.
So here you can see all the cards that were placed near a plant, and you probably can't pick out the plants next to it, but like there's one right there. So, and there's another one there. So I would sit there, or Bill would sit there, and we would sit and look over a specific area until we were sure there were no other plants. And we're also talking about seedlings, which may have only had 2 to 3 leaves on them, and everything was counted. So it took us a whole day to do each of these sites that we surveyed. Now, and we were there in, I think it was 2019 with Joyce and the other people
Okay.
from Cosewick. We had looked for the Creepus and the Skelia, and we found a few, but I don't think we found any more than 10 or 11 plants. But when you go there and spend a full day looking, you do find a lot more. So this is an example of the different ages of plants. There's no information telling us how long each plant lives, but we noticed that different sizes of plants, they appeared, you seemed to be like a new whirl of leaves with every year of growth. So we knew that the plants usually grew to be 5 or 6 years old before they started to flower. So, and then this is one that has the buds, flower buds ready to go. Now, my picture here is covered by the photo or the black square, so I don't know if that's a flowering picture or not. I can't remember. So, but those are a
We
variety
see
of the state.
buds.
Okay,
We see
that's
buds, not yellow.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's, that there's a seedling with 4 leaves. And then the older leaves, they get a little bit more pointy and narrow, but the younger leaves are more ovoid with the petiole. Next picture will show you some
Okay,
of the sizes of flowering plants. You can see it's the same quarter being used, so you can see the variation. The one in the lower right is about the largest we ever saw. They're quite small.
okay,
And so the pictures on the right, the 4 and on the left, those are just, that's one page of the status report. So we put photographs of all of the different plants in there, so you can see that there actually were that many. And this shows the card, the numbered card, and a close-up of the plant. And this is a picture of the plant in fruit. And you can see it's definitely wind dispersed. It sort of looks like a dandelion seed or fruit.
okay,
So this picture is again an overview of the original site. And actually, no, it's the site with the Cerastium. And we found last year we found 142 plants at the main site, 44 of which were in flower. And then the new populations, one of the first one we found had 25 plants, 4 were in flower. The second site had 13 plants, 8 were in flower, and the third site had 35 plants, 13 were in flower. So the number of flowering plants varied. It takes a few years to get to be a flowering stage. And we don't know how often the plants will flower once they have flowered once. It's not thought to be monocarpic, which means it would only bloom once. But no one has any information on how many years it can bloom. But because we have such a variety of ranges of stages, the number of whorls of leaves, we know that the population is persisting through time. And it's in the same location that it was in 1925 when Fernald first visited it. So, and 2 years in a row, we found more plants the second year than the first. So the population is considered
Okay.
stable. And this is a picture of the front page of the status report. And that's in front of the minister now for his signature. And then Michael and Ann had been, when they were working on getting the Torngat Mountains declared a national park, they had done some field work up in that area and found the 2 known locations for Scilly pygmaea up in northern Labrador in the Torngats. So In the status report, there's photos of those locations too. But again, like when you're first going there and just looking around like we did with Joyce and the Kosiwik people, you don't see that many. And as with Michael, and I found about a dozen plants in each site. If they had stayed, for a whole day in the survey, maybe there would have been more found. But again, it's the same locations that were reported by previous explorers in Labrador. So we have to assume that the populations are stable. Numbers will fluctuate according to weather conditions over years, but they're still persisting. Now, we'll go on to recolonization once these pictures start loading.
Okay,
Okay, so that first picture I showed you where the car was in the pit. This is a picture of that once the cars had left, and you can see all the vegetation, mats of vegetation that the bulldozer had pushed up off the where they took the gravel. And here's some of those vegetation mats. You can still see they're green and the plants are growing. So that wasn't done years before. That was done that year. So this is where there used to be some potentilla pulchella growing. That's the Burn Cape cinquefoil. Can you, I'll wait till you say okay. So again, we
Okay.
have to allow natural revegetation to occur from the surrounding plants. So this is 26 years after the first rehabilitation activities occurred in 98. And this is how much vegetation has come in so far. Now, the bottom areas of the pits aren't as heavily vegetated, but they're starting to become vegetated. And these slopes will take longer because, the gravity will pull them down. But eventually, you'll get little ravine vegetation, bits of ravine vegetation flowing in these areas. This next picture is another pit up at the top. You can see, can you see that yet?
okay,
Okay. Yeah, so here's the vegetation was starting to be spread out here from the original when it was piled up. And this is the second pit.
okay,
And this is this picture was taken in 2023. So this is the amount of vegetation that's come in the bottom of the pit so far. Again, these slopes will take a lot longer to revegetate. There's a bit of vegetation erosion here, but then the vegetation falls down here and takes root. So eventually it'll be probably hundreds of years before these slopes are revegetated. But the bottom of the pits, they'll start filling in a lot quicker.
okay,
Okay, so here you can see, this is the bottom of one of the pits at the top above the cliff. And we recorded 45 species last year from there. There's several of the dwarf willows growing around. And then the yellow here is a yellow mountain saxifrage, which is a very common colonizer in limestone barrens. So this is 26 years after the rehab. And in some of the areas where you have, this is, oops, sorry, Angela, you
yes,
tell me.
okay,
Okay, this is a colony of moss campion, and then we found some little small eyebrights, and this is Euphrasia farlowii, one of the small eyebrights typical of Newfoundland limestone barrens, and those flowers are only 2 to 3 centimeters long. So you can, millimeters long. So you can imagine how tiny these plants are and how hard they would be to locate. But we got there and just as they were blooming. And now we'll be going over to the east
Okay.
side of the Cape. And this is one of the lower pits on the east side of the Cape. This is called pit number 1. This is where the Scilia pygmea, the dwarf hawksbeard, used to grow. Remember that picture with the mining engineer and the mining inspector looking at the creepus? That was located around the edge of this. The new stakes they had put in that year.
Okay,
Okay, and this is the same pit. You can see the vegetation starting to grow in it. And in the bottom of the pits, there's quite a number of these, um, uh, oh, sorry, I went back the other way, of the Antonaria alpina growing in the bottom of there. And in these areas where you get a bit more vegetation growing, that's where we found the round leaf orchid, the small round leaf orchid, Galearis rotundifolia. There's quite a bit of it in these areas right here.
okay,
And this picture is the lower pit on the west side, and this is the location where I showed you the bulldozer sitting in the pit. You can see there's water. That's how deep they went. And of course, that's not groundwater. That's just rainwater filling it, as it's solid limestone underneath. But it's quite a deep pit. So it's going to take a while for that to revegetate. The crew members, they just raked all the slopes down as best they could. And again, all
Okay.
the gravel that had been taken out of it was taken off the cape, so they couldn't put it back in the spot. So this is what that pit looks like now. And you can see the vegetation growing in that side. And we even had some of the taller willows, like your Salix this color and Salix pellida growing in these areas. They still weren't more than a foot high or less than a meter high, but they may get bigger later, especially in a pit like this where it's more protected from the winds. That was 2023. The next few pictures will show the Brea site at the top of the cape.
okay,
And here's, I think it's, I'm not sure, it's Patty or Jean and Steve Taylor. They're filling in from that pile of gravel here. This was in June, and it was still pretty cold, and they had to use a pickaxe to break up the gravel because this was all frozen inside. So they were filling in these depressions with the gravel.
okay,
And this is what that site looks like now, where those, where Patty and Steve were working would have been over in this area. So, and this is looking towards that area. Here's the road that goes over to the parking area. Now, the Brea used to grow in this area, but it seems now to be positioned right along the edge, and it's a bit of in a precarious position. And Claudia comes and checks it every year. A few sites along this road, it seems to really like the road edges, so we keep moving the rocks out of it to protect them from the cars that drive by. The next picture you'll see is a group picture of the crew that worked with us and some of the community members that were essential.
okay,
They
okay.
were essential in getting
Yeah.
the reserve protected, the area protected. Here's Cyril Taylor. He's the mayor, was the mayor then. I don't think he is now. Ted Ederson, who built the Burn Cape cabins after and the restaurant, and now gives tours on the Cape since there's no more interpreters. And then there's Al, he was one of the crew members, Patty and Jean hiding behind there. Keith Taylor, Steve Taylor, Wilma Taylor, Carla, Noah Smith's wife, Burnett, me, and two people from Nature Conservancy. So we're there to see the end product. So that's it. Any questions?
Well, thank you for saving the Cape.
Should I hit stop share?
Sure. I think we can go back. Yeah. Maybe other people will have comments. I certainly would have a few myself. If you do, folks, just you'll have to unmute yourselves. And if you like, you could certainly turn your videos back on.
Lost you again. Or a little closer. Let's.
We see you, Paul.
Diane's there.
Yes,
Hey,
she is. She comes and goes.
Too
You
far
folks have been
away.
up there quite often, haven't you?
Yes, very special place. Thank you, Susan, for all the work you've done.
Well, you're welcome.
That's wonderful. That
You
was
could not
excellent.
do it, you know, when you go there and see what it's like.
I
For
had
those who
questions,
don't
but
know, Paul and Diane are from New Hampshire. So they've often made that trip up to the Northern Peninsula simply because it's so special.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Helen?
no, I said I had questions, but they actually were answered during the rest of the slideshow, which was excellent. Thank you. The cannonballs, is that where the polar bear over summered?
I don't know. I heard that there was one there, but I didn't hear anything about where it had overwintered. It could have come on an ice flow in the spring. Because they do have icebergs coming down, and I know there was a polar bear in St. Anthony not too long ago.
Come closer to me, if that helps.
So in fact, there was a photo in the newspaper. The polar bear was on someone's roof in the town of St. Anthony.
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
I have a quick question, Sue, if that's okay.
Sure.
I loved your presentation. I was just wondering, am I echoing for anyone else?
Not too bad. You're pretty
Okay.
good.
Okay, perfect. I was just wondering, in terms of like rehab, was the sites that were destroyed, were there plant seeds collected and replanted in those areas? I may have missed that.
No, they
Because it came
weren't,
in a little
because
bit
you,
late.
you can't, the gravel doesn't have soil underneath it, right? So you can't, really grow them and then transplant them. So the most effective way to do it is just let nature take its course. We had thought of it, but it really didn't work. And like that area where they put the peat over the brea, there were a lot of brea growing because all these nutrients were shown there, all of a sudden showed up. But the wind came and blew the peat away, and then the roots were exposed and all those breas died. So the best way to do it is the way it always happened naturally.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Susan, I was wondering, how big are those willows that you showed us a couple of pictures of old trees spread out on the ground?
You mean how old they were?
How wide, big they are? How
Oh,
wide?
some of them are about, maybe they can be a meter in width or in diameter. Others, when you get to the thicket areas, they kind of integrate into each other. But in the exposed areas, you can get smaller ones. You can get about a meter wide. Bill, do you remember if we had any bigger
No.
ones than a meter?
Back, can I stay in focus?
They're quite variable in size. I mean, like you said, the bigger ones are probably a meter across, but I think most of them are more like 15 to 20 centimeters, small patches. And they're very, very old. I mean, the roots go way back into the gravel, so without destroying them, there's really no way of telling how old they are.
They don't get very big in any direction.
No,
Thank you.
no, growth is quite slow.
Mhm.
Hi, Sue, it's Judy.
Hi.
Hi, I'm one of the original people who went to the Cape with you in '96. One of the field trip that went up in '96. And I'm really impressed with the changes, I must say.
Yeah,
You've
it's starting to
you've
look
done
better.
wonderful, wonderful work, and you must be very proud and feel really
Oh,
rewarded for what you've
yeah,
done.
we still have some problems, because the interpreters have been taken off. The ATVs are going up there when we don't want them to. They're not even allowed to, but they go anyway. And there was even some graffiti on some of the rocks near the big oven last year, or the year before. It was noted. I think Michael took some pictures and I put that in my report. So they went up to clean it off. Whoever does that, I can't remember. But they didn't get all of it. They forgot one of the areas. So I think some of it is still on there. So, without any protection, without anyone watching the Cape, there could be more problems. So we're starting to get in touch with the government again to see if there's anything we can do about that.
Yeah. As an offside, when's the best time to see the Skelia in bloom?
First week in July.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I know my first time going to Burnt Cape was with the Wildflower Society's field trip. I think that was 2003 or 4. Someone can tell me, but even then there were guides still employed, but we were working or had a dinner to try to help to persuade the government to keep the guides, but it didn't work. And the guides, I guess, are pretty much gone. However, I had no idea that Sue and Bill and Michael and Anne were the saviors of the Cape.
And the town, don't forget, if we hadn't been for the
Well,
town
yes, and
support,
the town
nothing
was
would have
working with
happened.
you. But if
Right.
you hadn't had the idea, they'd probably still be shoveling the gravel into the trucks and building roads with it.
Well,
Until
that's
you
the
pointed
problem,
out, yeah,
if it's not a reserve, then it's open to mining efforts. So
yes, yeah. So I really thank you. We've gone up several times since then. And I guess now I understand a lot better what its history was. So thank you so much. I also think you're a real trooper, Sue, to carry on with these long pauses because they were longer than I thought they would be. But it helps to see the picture that you're talking about. So
Yeah.
thank you for your patience, your persistence.
sorry, I jumped the book wall a few times though.
Well, is there anybody else who would like to ask any questions tonight? You'd have to unmute yourself to do that.
Dorothy Parker just wants to say thank you very much. I've heard of Burnt Cape so often, but I had never seen it or visualized it. And that was very, very informational. Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
I think Carmel, this is Heather, and I think Carmel would be speaking up, but I'd say that her computer has probably caused problems, or she'd be
Yes.
talking, I know. So
Yeah.
thank you on Carmel's behalf. So it was excellent.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I could add, just for someone who is watching tonight, that the extra time given for each photo, I appreciated, because you could see the details of each photograph. Oftentimes we tend to go through them so quickly, but we had the extra time tonight to look and see, that things had hairy stems or didn't. So yeah, whatever. It was great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I think we'll say good evening to everybody, and we have another plan for, believe it or not, this is November. I think we're going to have another slide presentation in December. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. And for now, thank you again to Sue, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Sue.
Thanks
Okay.
for listening.
Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
We may call it everyone for support with the government sometime in the future.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.